say is thanks for letting me be involved.
All right. Can you hear me? Well, Terry, thanks. We'll just start. Terry Thompson, County Commissioner, State Representative, athlete, and my favorite term for you was Robin Hartman, ancient mariner. We've called you other things, but we won't talk about that right now.
Oh, I know all those too.
Perfect fisherman. You've been part of a lot of ocean issues and fisheries issues. I started working with Terry on the fine group. Great beginning to working on some of these issues. One of the things that the fine group did was, and Terry and the Lincoln County's help, they saw the need to get fishermen together and other local stakeholders and take charge of what was going on outside of their backyards. And I think that two of the things that we have the success is the net site and the set site. Dan spoke to it a little bit, but if you look at the territorial seed plan, that was done in 5 years. The set site was done in 45 minutes. The net site, the same thing. It just goes to show that when you do have the right people in the right room and the horsepower behind it and the will to do it, things can get done in a relatively quick and easy way. So it's just a good footprint forward. It was done the Oregon way. People talk about that as a great thing to do or an example, and I think that's a good example of the Oregon way of how to do things. Looking back at that timeline, Terry talked about it a little bit. That territorial seed plan, I was telling Gina, and I said, my goodness, think about what all those OPAC members went through, David Allen, Terry, and everyone that was here, and Scott that was here. That territorial seed plan was going at the same time as marine reserves. They were having 8 to 10 OPAC meetings a year, plus all these working groups. So you're talking about thousands of hours, and I was there for a lot of them, and so was Charlie. But what a dedication to the state that the original OPAC members did. So Terry is the ancient mariner, the last in the but it's a lot for this group to look at and aspire to. They put in a lot of time. They did it without a lot of thanks, a lot of consternation sometimes, and we have some issues to fill. So take a little history lesson. Everyone's kind of new here, but look at what they did and thank them for their service. So Terry, thanks for all you've done for the state of Oregon, Lincoln County. It's been great working with you. Looking forward to you being my constituent pretty soon. So thanks thanks Terry. We have some cake for you. You have a card. Everybody signed it. There you go.
Well, I promise to be gentle.
Yeah. So this time,
I know every dirty trick.
If anybody wants to come up, Anno, you can go last.
Save the best for last.
Well, we do have to leave at 2. So anybody wants to come up and say a few words for Terry, come on up. Charlie and then David.
I got a little gift for Terry here.
It's so bright, I better not touch it.
It's oil.
Explosive device.
Yeah, I wonder, is it tar?
They are in here.
There are things in there that you can use, I believe.
I can recognize one of them, I know what it is. Oh, hey, the guy's got the right stuff, too.
I know what you like.
Well, I don't use these, but there's a charter boat that gives me hell, who catches more fish than I do, and he uses, this is called nuclear chicken. And it's the right lure. That's what's amazing, Charlie. That's great. We didn't just spend all your time on a surfboard for nothing.
Yeah, there's some nippers in there, the braided line. Those are the nice new nippers. It's got an LED light on it because I know you're getting older and you got to be able to see that. Actually, that's because Terry gets up before anybody else does. It's still dark out when
Yeah,
it's
I went fishing at 4:30 yesterday.
and most importantly, inside of that card is something that's going to be very important to you as you step down here, which is 2 free surf lessons.
That's amazing.
redeemable at any point in time. I considered a Surfrider membership, but I thought that might just be too much. I'd rather just get you in the ocean.
Charlie, I hate to tell you, but I can't use it. All the years I've done damage to fish in the ocean, I'm not getting on a surfboard and letting it get even. Can I keep this?
Yes, you can. Yes. And Kirsten Dunn also dropped a card in there as well for you. She's wanted to pay her respects, but she was not able to come here today. I wanted to just say a couple words on behalf of Terry. The first time I met Terry was, well, actually the first time I saw Terry was at a 2005 OPAC meeting. And I thought, who is this ornery SOB? That was my first impression. But over the years, Terry has become a mentor to me in many ways. And we don't always agree, but when we disagree, we are able to do that without being too disagreeable. And that's not true for me with everybody, and that's not true for Terry with everybody. But when you put two disagreeable people together, somehow or another they can be agreeable with each other a little bit. So Terry has done a lot over the years for both the fishing industry, but also the broader ocean community. And I think a lot of folks in the fishing community see what he does to represent the fishing community, but more broadly within Lincoln County and on the ocean, Terry has done a lot of work on behalf of recreational users, on behalf of social issues, and I've seen this firsthand, both at the legislative level, but also within his time in Lincoln County. Most impressive was probably Terry's ability as a Democrat to woo Republicans. And I got the distinct pleasure of having Terry mentor me through one of my first bills that I proposed to the Oregon legislature. I got my butt handed to me on that bill. But Terry told me that was going to happen. He took me around and he introduced me to all the Republican leadership in the building. He took me around and showed me how to work a bill. And I watched him not only be a mentor to an individual like me, but to young children on the track, in field, to kids in college, and in the academics. So kudos to you, Terry. Thank you for all you've done, both here at OPAC, but in everything you continue to do on behalf of Oregon and our coastal communities.
Thank you. I just read your note, or Kristen Don's note here. It says, part of it's nice, but then it comes down here, it says, look forward to possibly working collaborative research with you on marine reserve sites and all the great stuff you do with juvenile fishery research. It's one of my favorite pet projects, believe it or not, is in the marine reserves are setting these devices that catch juvenile fish, and I'm always interested in not just where fish live, where the babies live. And thank you very much, Keller, thank you for that, because it really is something I'm really interested in. It's a great project, and I hope that may be one of the things. I have problems in marine reserves, but that's one of the things that we make it out of. It may be really important, is that unusual science that we're learning.
So did you just admit you're good at catching little fish?
No, they are. I wait till they grow up. Thanks, Charlie.
David?
So I'm glad we're recognizing Barry today. I mean, a number of us, I'm going to include Scott McMullen, Robin Hartman, Brad Pettinger, and maybe a couple others. We all started serving together in 2005 up until, well, Scott and I stepped down at the end of last year, and we had a nice going away reception. But I just want to name a few other. Robin and Brad. They didn't have a chance to perhaps say goodbye. I think well, Brad did, but Robin had to leave pretty suddenly. So I just think it's, as Terry and others have said, there was a group of us that over the years went through a lot of issues together, and we came from different perspectives. I mean, I could say that Robin and Brad and Terry and I and others, we weren't always on the same page, but maybe this is an example for this group, but over time we learned how to work through the issues and reach a conclusion. And I think that was important, and I just want to throw out those names. though we're recognizing Terry, which is important, I just think it's nice just to remember the other folks that aren't here that perhaps we're all part of this process, and it was a great experience for me, and I really look forward to seeing what this group's going to do in the future.
Yeah, I'm the last of that group that came through all this. And the only reason that I stayed is that when the governor asked us to find somebody to replace him, all the commissioners on the North Coast said, don't leave, you stay. And I didn't know what was going to happen, but the reason that I resigned here a couple weeks ago with a letter is because I lost the election, but I had already kind of made up my mind that I was going to retire before that. And so I didn't campaign as hard as I could have. I got a good person that's coming into my seat, and the timing was right for me to step down now, I thought, so that there'd be continuity, that hopefully they'll put somebody in my seat. I said I supported David Yamamoto to take my seat, but whoever does, I'd like them to make the transition, because I think it's so important that we keep North Coast County Commissioners and North Coast fishermen on this seat. I can't speak about the rest of the state, but for me, I think it's critical that we keep those seats full into the future and don't let them flag for time to make a decision on who the next person is. So it's why I found the person, and I knew I was leaving. That's why I decided this is going to be the last meeting. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, no. I like little fish.
So I want to start out by saying I actually taught Terry something.
Oh.
I know, one thing.
Don't
And I'll
worry,
get
I'm
to
still
that
waiting
part.
for you.
I'll get to that part in a minute, but of all the things that we have heard about from Terry over the years about his different hats that he wears and different perspectives, one of the ones that always lights up his eyes is working on cables and working with the research vessels that are doing the transects. And he's talked about that relative to OPAC and the territorial sea and other things. And one time he turned to me and said, I saw the craziest thing on doing one of these transects underwater. And he shows me this picture, and there's this field of mud and these little like alien things crawling over the mud. He's like, it's a dangerous thing. I don't know what these things are. And me, as a scientist, I got to tell him what they were, because they're deep sea cucumbers. And his eyes lit up, and we had this conversation about cucumbers. And that's all I've ever been able to teach Jerry. But the point is, I'm going to turn it around now and be nice, which is that, we have all learned a lot from you, and I in particular have learned a lot about Oregon and doing things the Oregon way, and I think that has kind of crystallized for me in maybe thinking about something that rolls through my head. What would Terry Thompson do or say in response to X, Y, and Z? And that has kind of a fear factor in, okay, we got to make sure that this can pass Terry. But that has made us stronger in that you are a really important voice, and you pay attention to what's important, and you voice it. And that has been valuable in making us all stronger in making management decisions and policy decisions. And you do it for the benefit of us as a group. And so I think that you're always behind us right after you throw us under the bus for a couple of days. and then you're right there behind us, supporting us, talking up our budgets, talking about the need for investing in fisheries and investing in understanding the ocean. So all of that's a way of saying thank you for all of those years, and it's been interesting and a pleasure.
Yeah, she got a new respect for me, because I've been fishing in deep water, and I've caught every kind of animal, and I've got on my table ship, and I went to 700 fathoms. And when I got down there's these little blue, they're kind of like a squishy, look like a Stay Puft, a blue Stay Puft, you know, the guy with, comes on the Stay Puft can, and got little legs on it. It looks just like the weirdest thing in the world, and I thought, there's no way she knows. So, yeah, you've done a great job working the Marine Division. I enjoyed working with you all the time. ODF&W absolutely has to be involved in every step of every management decision that's made in the ocean. Because even if it's, whether it's geological or what it's about, fisheries plays a part in the state. It's a major portion of the income from the ocean in the future. It will be, I sometimes get discouraged that it doesn't play a bigger role with energy, and they should be working collaboratively together to find the right locations so that we can optimize the utilization of the ocean. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm not gonna pass on a chance to go before I'm so, Terry probably won't remember this, but I met him well before I had the honor of being his legal counsel. He and I were the only two people, he was a state representative at the time, but we were the only two people that showed up to testify along with then Director Bob Hyman in support of the parks budget at a legislative hearing. And he asked me afterwards, what are you doing here? Who are you with? And I said, I'm just a citizen. He said, well, why do you care about the parks budget? I said, I'll surf. He said, well, do you ever surf at Agate? And I said, yeah. He said, well, you can park in front of my house next time.
He said, I do already.
So I appreciated that. And, to come along later and get the chance to work with him in this setting, I want to thank you for your service, but I also want to thank you for something you specifically did when I first started coming to OPAC meetings. It was, I believe it was you and Jay Rasmussen who told me that, I ought to lose the necktie because I'm making the locals nervous. And I haven't worn a necktie to an OPAC meeting ever since.
So Terry, I met you probably 8 years or so ago when I was appointed public at large test pack. I'm a rather new commissioner, and I've learned a lot from two major commissioners. One, Tim Josie, when it comes to forest products industries. And I know you've always told me that, when it comes to forest, you go to Tim, and I do the exact same thing. But over the years, working with you on test pack and watching you on OPAC, you have taught me so much about ocean policy and fisheries, and I do appreciate that so much. I really do. You're a great mentor. You will continue to be a mentor, not only to me, but I think a lot of people in this room. I think that's going to continue. You're not going anywhere. So
I am.
Again, your teachings have been invaluable to me, and I'm going to continue to utilize you as a resource moving forward. And I know you won't mind that at all. I know you won't. Thank you for what you do.
Well, thanks for showing up at all the meetings. When you first showed up, I didn't think that you'd probably show up, but you've been in literally virtually almost every meeting since then. And there's not many members of the public. You came because you're genuinely interested. That's one of the reasons that I support you. I think you'll do a good job. No matter what the capacity is, because we don't know who's going to replace me, but I think you're the one who's had the experience. Not that there isn't Katie, who's taken my spot, couldn't do a good job, but she doesn't have your years of background, and I think you've got to have a background in this field. She's done fisheries work, but she doesn't know what this group stands for that you do.
Thank you, Terry.
Am I bringing this home?
Laura, if you don't say something about me, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, come on. There's gotta
A command performance.
I think I show up for your darn Parks Department budget. What more do you
Well,
do?
that was pre me even. Let's I have not been around. I'm not that old apparently. I've been around long enough that I have been here with OPAC, with Terry and other people at the table since before I had both my kids, and my son is turning 10. So actually 2003, I think. 2004.
Started
Um,
2005.
I was in charge of the Marine Reserve working group meeting stuff, so
Yeah.
I can't remember. And I guess it's been long enough. But I really enjoyed working with Terry and sitting next to Terry in lots of meetings. And one of the comments on your card relates to, if I had the skills, I would have drawn a picture on your card. But I am not very artistic, so I did not do that. But I didn't get a picture out of all those years of sitting next to him. But I did enjoy observing the artwork and learning a lot from Terry over the years.
Anytime you want one, you can come pick this down.
Okay, awesome.
Who else do you want to talk to?
Oh, no. There's all these guys that could pick on me for some reason over the years. Let's put an end to this and go home.
All right.
Where's
It was a dark and stormy night. 300 years ago.
Let me fill up on coffee first time. That's gonna be a while here.
I figure the only way we're going to come out of this alive is I sort of maybe talk about the first time I met Terry Thompson and something that just happened very, very recently, right? So there's decades in between. And I feel uniquely qualified to say something about Terry because I don't think, apart from my parents, that there's anybody that I've ever known who's had a bigger influence on my life. And you are a true original, and that is about the best compliment that I can say about someone is that there is nobody quite like you, and I doubt that there will be after that. But the first time I met Terry Thompson, I had graduated from law school, and I was in the Oregon Capitol working for the Coastal Caucus as the the legislative fellow. And State Senator John Brenneman comes into where it was about 6 in the morning, and State Senator John Brenneman looks at me and says, "Hey, Otto." And I go, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Fisherman's coming today from Newport. His name is Terry Thompson. He's the real thing. Take care of him." And that's all. Those were my instructions. Right? So I saluted, and about a half an hour later, because it was early, Terry loves to be places early. Up to the office comes Terry, and John Brenneman's wife Jan says, "Oh, hi, Terry." And so I know you were, and then she said, "Well, John's not here right now, but he wants you to speak to Anno." And then he sort of she motions back toward me, and a look of disappointment on your face was because Terry didn't drive over to Salem to speak to some flunky kid. He was there to see his state senator. And so I will spare you all the details, but what he came to see me about was that he had picked up knowledge about what was a Holocaust going on at sea. The Japanese and the Koreans and the Taiwanese had the Asian high seas drift net fisheries. And Terry had a document leaked to him from a NOAA staffer, and he was in the Capitol, as he often did in those days, to change the world. And his big thing was to figure out, to try to enlist some help to figure out what was going on in the ocean and to try to put a stop to it. And so that sent us off on an odyssey. And I am writing a book about all that, literally. It's called Crimes Against the Natural World. And it's I have a draft that I'm working, and I spent a lot of time studying international law to try to make sense of what we did. But the miraculous thing is, we stopped it almost right away, Terry. It was astonishing. I thought we would be at this for the rest of our lives to try to bring this to heel, but we hit it just right. I don't have time to explain what happened, but I feel to this day it was almost like the sword of the stone.
You shut up and let me explain what happened.
All right. This was meant to draw you out.
Okay, so this was, ironically, it shows you what the power of politics can do. We had the evidence from the NOAA report of an observer of all the deaths that were happening in porpoises and fish at sea, and nobody was paying attention. And I got the report, and I handed it to my wife in the middle of the night, and I said, "You read faster than I do read this, because I don't read real well." And about 2 o'clock at night, she goes, pow, hits me in the side. Oh. She says, "Do something about this." I said, "Well, what can I do?" And then I thought, well, I'll call my state senator, and I know how to get a resolution. And Arnold drafted the resolution when I came over there, first I didn't think he had any capability, he said he just came from Washington DC, he let me draft the resolution. We drafted the resolution, I took a chunk of the gillnet, what I picked up on the beach, and sent it to Washington DC. And with the information. And it just started snowballing. And fishermen got involved. It took about 3 years to get it. But we got that fishery shut down. But it all started with that resolution and auto drafting it. I've never been smart, but I know a lot of smart people. And that's why I've been successful, letting other people do what they do best.
Well, I think it's an example of Terry being able to accumulate people around him and making all of us better. Karen, you were just sort of getting, everybody that said something here is sort of getting at the same thing. He challenges us, he makes us better. And so I'm fast forwarding to the current era where Terry also helped pioneer this relationship that we have with the University of Oregon School of Law, where we have students. And we've done that now. We've had two per summer. And it's been so much fun and so stimulating to have really bright young people that are so anxious to learn. Gives me a captive audience for my war stories, of course, so that's why I like to say. But just, so Terry, the other day, and Grace Brailer and Sean Rivera were with us this summer, but one of the last times we met with them, Terry, I remember we were sitting in the office, and I encouraged you to tell the story, sort of, again, the Ancient Mariner. I said, Terry, tell Sean and Grace when you were most frightened out on the ocean, when you really thought you were going to die. Can you do that for us real quick here?
Oh God, there's so many. Which one was this?
Well, this was the one where they thought you were going to, they were dead. They were, you would remember you were stuck out at sea. The weather turned, and you realized you had to just ride it out.
Oh, that's my dad called me offshore out of Depot Bay to go tuna fishing, and I was only about maybe 19, 20 years old and had a small boat. And I got offshore, and then it came about 65-mile-an-hour winds that night. And my dad didn't call up to find me in the morning. He called up to see if anybody could even have found me and picked me up during the night. And one of the fishermen came back and said, I just saw him go by and he's pulling fish in that little bitty boat, and it wasn't designed to do what I was doing. But during the afternoon, I thought I was dead. I'm not real religious, but I can remember the storms hit so bad. I nailed the boards, hatch boards onto the windows. It was so bad, there was much water coming at it. I got out and done that. And I'm laying on the floor. I take the mattresses out, and the boat's only about this wide. And I lay down in it, and so that it wouldn't break my ribs or it wouldn't fall. And after a while, I thought, yeah, this is bad. I need to eat though. And I got on my knees. I got up, and all I could reach was a can of fruit cocktail. I brought that fruit cocktail down and opened the can, and trust me, that might have been the best meal of my life. I didn't think I was going to make it through the night. And it's a true story. I earned it the hard way, but that's true. I was probably scared right there at that moment that I wouldn't make it through the night. But at least I was full.
So when he told the story, I just looked at the faces of Grace and Sean, and it was just such a riveting moment. And it just made me feel so good about sort of this passing the torch to the next generation. I mean, there's so many just positive messages in there, and it was a great moment. You also took them out on the water. And so Terry's ability, and Charlie, you touched upon it, was that his mentoring young people, this, as we all know, is a very special individual who's made a lot of contributions. And Terry, but we have plans for you. You can't be done. Your knowledge of, if people are talking about developing the Outer Continental Shelf, as Oregonians, we have to really understand what is out there. It's not a blank space that needs to be filled up with stuff. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so I hope you'll help lead a journey with some of us to really understand what's out there. That was that fisherman collaborative stuff that we've got to do. you can't go to the grave with all that knowledge of the ocean in your head without trying to share some of it in the way that you feel comfortable. So I hope that's the next chapter. And with that, Madam Chair, I'm.
Okay, I wish there was
yield the floor.
one person I could have had here today to hear this. And that's a freshman who started out at Oregon State University this week. And he wants to be in wave energy. And he's a genius. He's a young man I met over the last couple of years. And he wants to be in wave energy. He wants to do something in the energy field for sure. I don't know what he's going to do, but hopefully what we're doing here in the last few years sets a thing for the future so he gets to do what his dream is.
Well, thank you, Terry, and to everyone who shared these kind words. As everyone said, each time we pass the baton, we lose a lot of institutional knowledge and perspectives that are really valuable like yours. And I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that we sincerely hope you continue to participate. You kind of laughed at the idea, but I do hope you will show up and participate.
You already said the old Coney section back there.
Yeah.
We tailgate back there, Terry. It's not that bad.
That's what we'll do, we'll turn in a tailgate party before every OPAC meeting.
Terry, I thought I was done last year and they asked me back.
So yeah, it's been a pleasure to serve with you, and I think I speak on behalf of all of us when we wish you the best in your future adventures and endeavors, and we hope to see you. And I will say over here, we do have a cake for Terry, acknowledging his service and also his passion for fishing. So when we adjourn, hopefully you'll stay and have a piece and chat with everyone and just